You see, I've got a long torso, so I accommodate the rest.
The creation of clothing. Do you have to know those for you to say, I am a fashion designer?
Fashion design, to me, is following steps. Steps of creativity, steps.
Top 5 out of a lot of designers we have in South Africa, that's a huge thing. For someone who doesn't know you, who are you?
Who am I? I hear this question a lot, funny enough. I am Tapiwa Gwizo. I am a fashion designer who's a recent graduate. And yes, what more would you love to know about me?
When you say fashion graduate and a fashion designer, how different are you from every fashion graduate or every fashion designer out there?
Oh, honey, I studied. That should be more than enough.
Okay.
I have learned the art of in-depth tailoring, pattern making, couture. We've learned everything from the theory to the history, all the details within fashion that is important to learn, understand, and appreciate before you even call yourself a designer. You have to understand, learn, go in depth, and experience fashion on a deeper level.
I get you. I mean, fashion is broad, you know. You could have chosen to be a stylist. You could have chosen to be a photographer, model, or anything else. But specifically, you chose fashion design. What is fashion design? Because now people be calling themselves fashion designers. You know, the word fashion design.
Slapping a print on a t-shirt.
Yes, you know, it's associated with so much, which I'm not sure what is associated with, because I associate it with how I practice it as a designer. So for you, what is fashion design?
Fashion design, to me, is following steps. Steps of creativity, steps of organization, steps of making sure that you hit all the marks to achieve the ultimate creativity. Many people have this misconception that fashion is just wow, 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 and done. And it's actually so hilarious when I talk to people about fashion design and they're like, oh, so like you're just a creative, skip something. No, it's a process. A process of research, diving into what you're trying to achieve, and then actually creating a space for you to create at the utmost level of focus and just enjoying your space you are in. So fashion to me is something that it's craftsmanship, it's delicacy, it's something you are in the zone for. It's zoning into a piece of paper, a piece of fabric, colors, and just going all in.
So do you have to know how to sew? Do you need to know pattern making? Should you be a sketcher or an illustrator? Should you understand, or do you have to understand textiles theory and everything that you've mentioned as far as the creation of clothing? Do you have to know those for you to say, I am a fashion designer, or for you to be able to study or to start a fashion design brand?
I truly believe that before you become a fashion designer, you need to learn the fundamentals. You won't go anywhere without learning the history and understanding what needs to be in place before you call yourself a designer. You speak to many of these designers who have started fashion brands, and you see how they said, in the beginning, I was the pattern maker, I was the sewer, I was the designer, I did it all. You will find that in fashion school, you're the photographer, you're the advertiser, you're
So
literally
true.
everything in one. You're the jack of all trades. And it's very important that you understand all these elements. Sure, later on, when you become more successful and more having disposable income, you can hire the rest to do your bidding. but understanding so someone cannot pull the wool over your eyes, how to sew a seam, how to understitch, how to grade, how to even make a sleeve. You need to understand all these elements in order to become a true artisan and a true fashion designer without just the name and label.
Outstanding. I mean, you used the word artisan,
Yes,
which is a word that in this house we associate with.
of course.
How do you feel about the people who actually make the fashion houses? And I will speak about South Africa.
Yes.
Our fashion houses in South Africa are not just made up of a designer themselves. It is made up of a lot of people behind the brand making the clothes, making sure that it's running like a well-oiled machine.
True.
No one knows about them. We don't know who the tailors are. We don't know who made our garments, who painted them, who dyed them, who made the fabrics that we made. How do you feel about that? The artisans, or the people who are actually the craftsmen behind fashion and the product design in fashion, we've lost them along the way. We don't glorify or idolize them the way we look at fashion designers. What is your take on that?
I honestly do believe that it's a heartbreaking sentiment that the true designers behind, the true artisans, the true people who take their time, break their backs, bending and stitching and creating all these garments, never have their name uttered. It's something we wish we could change. You know, future generations of fashion designers, I have a dream, of course, to see them glorify the people who assist them, that help them. And when you find certain fashion brands that actually make that happen, to showcase and celebrate the designers that are behind the scenes, it's heartwarming.
Yeah.
Because we don't thank them enough, the people behind the scenes who are stitching one bead off the one bead, or the pattern makers who are making these insane patterns for these drapes that these designers are creating, achieving a true dream that only we can't even comprehend. It's amazing to see these people work behind the scenes. That's why if you're ever a designer doing an internship behind the scenes, just to see this amazing work is truly a blessing, because you learn from people who have done this for years and years on end, and are not just doing this because they did it really quickly, but they've mastered the art of doing what they're doing at this exact moment. I would love to see them come about, even if they stepped out of the shadow that they're put in and just celebrated more, talked about more. You only see them ever when a designer just wants to say, oh, to them, thank you, and then walk away. So it's heartbreaking in a sense where you never truly know our mothers, our aunties, our uncles, all behind the scenes saying, I work for this designer, but I did that and that and that, but you never see their name anywhere. So that's a sad point of view where credit is never given to those who truly deserve it. It'll always be what the house is. It's the house.
I mean, designers take all the credit.
True.
Yeah, they are the glorified ones.
Yeah.
Apart from, I see. No, that's very interesting, because I personally share the same sentiments. I do believe that the artisans have to be heard. They should be heard. The crafters, the patterners, the tailors, the seamstresses, the people who are working behind these big fashion houses, they also deserve the respect, being paid enough, being respected well enough, because they are a skilled labor.
They really are.
Yeah.
They learn how to do all these details and things that you could never even think of within a hurry and emergency. If a rip happened and this beautiful gown has all of a sudden a tear in it, an expert tailor and an expert seamstress would be like, oh, but you can do this.
Yes.
and it looks like it never existed.
And it could be something that the designer themselves do not know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just these small things that the actual art and tailoring you learn that is incredibly immaculate. Like recently, I watched a documentary where old school tailors who make those blazers and jackets and suits, the craft of learning that is dying out, but there are immaculate things that they know and learn that you would never even believe. Like mending a rip on a blazer of a suiting fabric. They're able to weave in the fabric with specific threads in order to make sure that rip blends into the rest of the fabric to the point where it's not at the back and it's not at the front. It's perfectly seamed in. And to learn stuff like that is a dying art. It's truly sad, because what happened to those? What happened to glorifying such immaculate, time-consuming, and detailed work? We only wish to learn half of the things the previous generations have learned.
How was your life as a student? How was studying fashion?
Fashion!
So before you studied fashion,
Yes.
and during when you were a student to after studying fashion, did you see it as the same? Is it a scam maybe? How was it though? How was your entire experience?
I would like to say it is half a scam and then half incredibly important, and like
That's what a lot of people are saying.
Yeah.
Like, what is it, Ingaga, that's happening?
you're
in the
like
fashion schools?
these fashion schools drain you, and I'm not talking about just your pocket.
Yeah.
It's your mental health, your physicality, everything. It's draining you, but in a way where you want to be here if this is where you really are supposed to be here in life. It's something that will drive you mad, but if this is what you truly want to do, you can get over it. You'll aspire and get where you need to be within a heartbeat. I went through the most in my studies. The most. Like, hey, when I say depression hit, it hit.
Really?
Wow. Like, I had previous just things that I was going through as well.
Okay.
However, it was never something that was crippling or like something that really affected my day-to-day life. And even still now, even through school, it wasn't something that truly affected me. But it seems like when you enter into fashion school and you're creating creations after creations after creations back to back, not only for assignments, but for just to be able to get better, it's always a time where you have to create a concept for something. You have to relate. You have to create a garment that tells a story. And most of the times I felt like my story is related to myself and my spirituality and just the life I've gone through. So I found that in my studies, I was dealing with a lot of things that I had kept quiet and suppressed and had just overlooked because I thought they weren't really that important or that dire. But when you're creating a garment and you have to dive into those feelings, you have to dive into that concept, you actually feel the emotions. And when I say depression, I don't mean like it was crippling me. I mean in a way where you actually feel drained because you create a creation, you go through all those emotions, you go through all those feelings, you create, you work nights, days, don't sleep, and you crash as soon as it's over. So it literally feels like you're on the move and you stop and you're on the move again with a different and new thing you have to pick up and go. So you find that you're emotionally drained, physically drained, like everything just seems to always need to be dealt with or need to be like uncovered and learned again and again.
But wouldn't you say it helped you heal in the process? Because you say each and every project you needed to confront your own challenges and your traumas and what you were going through.
It really did. You never truly heal, in my perspective.
Okay.
You can, in a sense, forget, but sometimes healing is something we hope we can all achieve. Healing doesn't necessarily happen as quick as we would like to hope it does. It takes a lot more time. So most of the times within this fashion practice, you find that because there's not enough time within each assignment and each garment you're making, you're uncovering something for that moment. And as soon as you felt it, you've gone through it, it's been locked away again. So you never truly heal or deal with something within that practice unless I'm hoping as a fashion designer, I can later on expand on it and, you know, take that journey as it comes and truly deal and heal with that. And honestly, that could be a collection, you know, healing.
So what is your ultimate goal in fashion? Are you a designer? Do you have your own brand? What are you doing at the moment?
Currently, I'm working as a teaching assistant for garments and patterns, technology. However, I did have a graduate brand, Miss Ma'am. She is in construction because we don't know if she's truly what my end game is. She was a collection that was sparked up of different concepts and belief systems, and necessarily a very interesting genre. I'm not really sure I see myself continuing. So my end game in fashion has always been explore it all, then decide later.
Okay.
Especially being young right now, I truly want to experience everything in fashion because not many people truly understand how many roles in retail and fashion there are. Like, there's not one set designer or one job for a designer. There are multiple. Just last week, I learned about a certain type of job in fashion I could actually do, and I was intrigued.
Which is?
It is quality control management, and I was just
more factory work.
I was actually intrigued. It's not something that I would always see myself in, but it's something the person who was passionate, who explained it to me, I was truly interested. I would have loved to intern at a factory just to see how that operates and how that works. And I really do want to give it a try, as well as styling or even working at a different fashion houses, giving every single fashion job a try. Why not?
So some fashion designers in South Africa would say, when you study fashion design and you graduate, you have about 20 years before you actually become a designer and you become a global name as a certified designer. And 20 years might be a push. Maybe that was then. Let's say now. You need so many years, maybe a decade or just less than a decade, for you to gain the skills, the knowledge, the experience to start a brand or to function as a viable brand. Do you think that's realistic?
I'm in a position where even calling myself a fashion designer right now is a stretch. We got the degree. Yay. It says BA fashion degree on it.
Not yay, child.
Yay, literally. But calling myself a fashion designer is a stretch right now.
How?
I truly...
Because you graduated. Like, you have the skills. when you graduate, you are equivalent to a designer because you have the skills. You have
Yes.
the paper that says go into the industry. How is that a stretch?
This is what links into saying the artisans behind the work who help designers create the garments and move on,
Yes.
who specialize in a certain type of craft and hone in all their skills in order to become the designers they are now. Most of them don't have degrees. Most of them didn't need a piece of paper telling them they were a fashion designer.
But are you saying in South Africa? Because in other
Yes, in
countries,
South
really,
Africa.
you find there's programs for
Yeah.
tailors, for crafters, for beaders, for embroiderers, and all and all. But in South Africa, you find people who really do not have that background, the traditional formal schooling.
Yes. Now in this, as we go on and on within this generation, you find that a lot of them now do have to go for schooling just to gain some more of the fundamental skills. However, there are some that actually learn the skills from generations on generations of details and certain skills that pass down. And you see them, the difference between someone who is educated in a sense where with a degree and someone who has had passed down intricate details and skills learned, and you can see how someone with a degree can fall short from experience. I honestly believe that calling myself a designer now feels like a stretch because I would love to gain more experience.
Okay.
Scar up a little bit, toss into the mud, learn more from my surroundings, especially in South Africa, and learning from generations and generations of work, only because then I can claim I have specialized in something, I have learned from both sides of the story, and I am a fashion designer.
So which fashion brand in South Africa would you like to work for? Let's say there's a designer listening to this particular chat, and they're looking at you and they say, we would not mind having you in our house. So which fashion designer in South Africa do you see yourself working for? Or fashion house or brand? Put it out there. You never know.
You know what happens. Hey, Tapiwa Gwizo. Literally.
So Tebe, listen.
Hi. Can you hire me? Like, I would actually really love. I'll bring such great ideas.
What are your specialities? Because Tapiwa Gwizo is a very big fashion house in South Africa. They've achieved so much, and him as a person as well. So I'm sure there's a lot of portfolios coming down their doorstep to say, hey, we want to intern here and there. What are your specialities? So that if he's listening and he's considering, this serves as a pre-interview moment.
My specialities, I am what you would call a jack of all trades.
Okay.
I am really good at sewing. I'm very hands-on. I work really well with my hands.
I know that.
So my hands are very good at sewing, pattern making, even sketching and designing, painting. I seem to be a kid who, if you give me something with your hands, I can make it work. I will make you something from it. So I am very easy to teach. I can learn.
That's an important skill.
You show me something and I will learn from what you're showing me and immediately want to try it and give it my all, give it my best. So, you can.
What's your ultimate goal in fashion? Do you want to have your own fashion house? Do you want your fashion brand? Do you want to be a famous designer? Do you see yourself dressing everyone in South Africa? Do you want to deal with the rich and the wealthy, or you just want to dress a regular South African individual? Like, what is your ultimate goal as far as South Africa is concerned? And then you can take it abroad as well.
My ultimate goal has always been being a person with a brand for everyone. I always say this to everyone, but I would love to create a brand for the African body, for all body types, actually, in fact. But being in South Africa is creating a body type is vast. There are multiple types of body types. There are different people of all different races, all different places, and they're all looking for good clothing. I want to cater to the African body, the African paycheck, the African economy. I literally want to create a brand for people. It's whether that be something similar to Mr. Price or H&M, but creating a brand where anyone can walk into the store and leave with something.
Fair.
I myself, as a plus size body, as an African body type, find it hard to walk into a store and leave with something I actually think is nice. I want to have a store where someone can walk in, find something they really like and leave, and not have to get it only because that's the only thing in their size, or direct someone online. I want to be there for anyone who needs an affordable option, a gorgeous option, just something that people can rely on. That has always been my goal. Sure, it is difficult, but I have very much so been interested within corporate fashion as well.
Okay.
So even Superbalist, if you're trying to fly me out to for an internship, I love that. Just all the brands that work that way, you know. I'm trying to have a rich pocket at the end of my life. Yeah.
Let's do this. So give me 5 top designers in South Africa, and you're arranging them from the top, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. In designers, not fashion houses, but just designers.
Designers?
Yes.
In terms of just what they
Their
make.
creative output, the people that you believe in as designers who are practicing fashion, who are practicing design, that you are like, these are my top 5 designers. Because I mean, South Africans definitely. A fashion designer and a fashion house are 2 different things.
Yes.
You know, you find that there's a designer who worked for a house they didn't start, who are just employed as a designer, or who works under a creative director. You know, so being a designer, being a creative director, being a fashion brand owner, founder, are different things. So, or let's open it up. 5 top fashion designers, but within those fashion designers, you can consider their houses or where they're practicing or their work or whatever.
Oh my. Okay. Within order.
Yeah.
Okay. That's hard. Very hard. I would like to say Tebe.
Tebe who?
I can't give you all surnames, to be honest. Very honest. I'm not gonna give you all surnames.
Is he number 1?
Yes.
Okay.
David.
Okay.
True Artisans. File.
Okay.
She is, if you know SA Fashion Week, you know her. I find her work...
Figula Sokulu.
Yes. I find her work very intricate, delicate. Jakob, like, I'm trying to think of his name, for Black Coffee.
Okay, Black Coffee, number 4.
Yes.
Okay.
And then number 5 would be I'm seeing all these designers and I'm like, okay, do I love their work or is it just a name?
Ooh.
That's just no
Ooh.
shade.
No, it's not shade, but I'm just
But
saying.
just because I find that a lot. That's what happens a lot.
There's a lot of designers.
They really are, but like when it comes,
I mean,
to
top 5 out of a lot of designers we have in South Africa. That's a huge thing.
somewhat there.
Do you have the 5th one?
I have an idea of who I'm thinking about, but then like it's between 2 people.
Okay, who are those 2 people?
Michael and Counterparts. I'm forgetting his brand. What's his name of brand? But they have a similar style within work.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to colors.
Yes.
Per se, colors and prints. If I have to
Let's say Michael.
Yeah, we'll say Michael. Yeah. I like per se their individuality within their work. This is saying within all 5 of the designers. I love the individuality and also just how, as designers of themselves, they know how to establish a brand. They know how to create work that is their identity and know how to extend that and carry that on. That is a very hard thing for most designers who create one-off pieces that are gorgeous, but the next piece looks nothing like the one before. So they lose their identity and their name very quickly. But those are designers that when I look at their work, I'm like, wow, like you can see a golden thread as if you ever saw that in a different store, you'd be like, that's something Tebe would make, or that's something Michael would make, or Figile make. And I think that is so cool.
Yeah.
And that's something I strive to find.
Yes.
Even within my own work, I'm always like, wow, like what I've created last week is not what I'm creating right now. Like I see no like name in my work.
I mean, establishing house codes doesn't take an overnight thing,
True.
You need to constantly create and release collections and release items and pieces to a point where you actually now have house codes, from color fabric to texture and movements and everything, the muse and the stories. You will always go back. It's like a muscle memory of the brand where you always stick to those particular codes. I must say thank you so much for chatting with us. And I can't wait for people to hear this beautiful conversation that we had. It has been an honor to conversate with Tapiwa Gwizo.
Thank you.
Tune in next time when we have another designer or an artisan or someone who practices within the fashion ecosystem to take you through this beautiful industry in South Africa that we are trying to make sure that it generates enough income, it's generating enough support from the country and the globe.
Yes.